This is Three Old Friends, The Music Never Ends. Um, Today, I guess I'm your host or beginner, Mike, and then Jose and Dave. Last time we did Dylan, this is our 37th playlist, right? 36th. We're already working on 37. That's what was confusing. We'll get to that next time. But anyway, yeah, so this is our 36th, and last time we had Dylan as a theme, all Dylan songs, and we picked other themes. This time I kind of wanted to um, just open it up to whatever was on our minds. We used to do this back in the day. We did a lot of these kind of free form things. And we've moved towards more themes now, but I think every once in a while it's good to do that. And so this one we're titling Evolve, which has to do somewhat with what happens on the playlist and the last song, which we'll get to. So let's get right into it. I was first and I did Oh Well, Part 1 by Fleetwood Mac. This is much earlier Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green. It was actually part of a larger song that they divided into two. And the first part, what I really like about it, it's I hate to put this kind of term on it, but blues rock. There's a heavily in blues influenced rock, and they really jam out. I mean, he really rips it up on guitar and kind of almost nonsense lyrics to it. I read interviews somewhere. He's long since died. He's died a while back, but he said that he wasn't such a huge supporter of the song. He's like, yeah, it was just kind of something I threw together. But it's a great fun song. I thought it was a great way to start, kind of rocking out like that, in a bluesy way. And the lyrics, basically two sets of lyrics. And I'm not even going to remember. Don't ask me what I think of you. You might not get the answer that you want me to. And I thought it was interesting because the first time he's addressing whoever, maybe the listener or just a general person. But the second one, he talks about God, and I've always wondered, is he saying God is saying, don't ask me what I think of you. You might not get the answer that you want me to. Thought that was kind of interesting, something to ponder. And just the last point I'll make if you hear Fleetwood Mac and you don't know much about their music, this is not what you would expect. This is so far away, so many lineup changes from what became that huge band that, you know, you see on PBS during pledge drives and such. So anyway, yeah, what'd you guys think?
Yeah. Yeah, it ain't rumors. So that's for sure. And I like when we do these free for alls because, like you said, back in the day, it really exposed you to new music. And it also, probably heard this song 100 times, but could never tell you. We all like to pride ourselves on knowing our music. I like to joke that I'm a music elitist. But when this song come on, like, who is this? What is this? Who's this? I don't. Where's this guy? And then so you have to look it up. So it reintroduces us to that music, and of course it is a great song, and so that's why it kind of sticks in your mind. And I like that lyric. Don't ask me because I kind of used that before in my life. You want an honest answer? That I'm unfortunately guilty of that sometimes. But yeah, like I said, it was one of those songs that you listen to growing up. You're like, oh, who's that? And then you're like, oh, that's right, that's old Fleetwood Mac, for lack of a better phrase. So yeah, I thought it was a really good way to start because I think it kind of embodies why we do these playlists and the genesis of these playlists, so to speak.
Yeah, I know you said, Fleetwood Mac, early Fleetwood Mac. I've never really gotten into the early stuff, but you know what? It's Mick Fleetwood and John McVie, and that's how they came up with Fleetwood Mac, not Buckingham Nicks or the other iterations of Fleetwood Mac that have occurred later on. Christine McVie joining later as well. Um, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's a cool bluesy kind of song. I don't think I was familiar with it at all. Uses that kind of that 8 bars blue riff, blues kind of thing. And it reminds me of another song, and maybe you have to help me because I cannot for the life of me remember. But you know, when they stop playing the instruments and then he does his little, you know, song part, I wrote down a couple words because I can't figure out what it is, but like, hey mama, bop, 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 too hot to handle, bop, 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 whatever. I don't know. And what is that song? There's like a
Oh, it's I think it's it was a Sam and Dave song that that band covered. Too Hot
anyway,
to Handle.
I can't think of it. There's lots of
They-
songs that use that same style, but even like even a little bit of a Led Zeppelin kind of sound to
Oh,
it, whatever.
that could happen, right? Led Zeppelin never shied away from the blues.
Right.
And you know, and I didn't. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the second part of that song because it's actually two songs. Um, Go ahead, or I can bring it up in a minute.
Well, no, I like the fact that it
No.
transitions to that because that's what I like that kind of in the late '60s and how they have that cool mellow, you know, ending to it. Like I said, I wouldn't have been able to pick Fleetwood Mac out of a lineup on that song if you told me that was Fleetwood Mac. I wouldn't have known that. It's kind of like some of the earlier other bands of the '60s, like the first iteration of Moody Blues, for example. It's like, nah, that's not really Moody Blues to me. Same kind of thing with this. It's like until they get into the commercial success of Fleetwood Mac. So, but it was a cool bluesy late '60s song. I liked it.
Yeah, I kind of screwed that up, didn't I? I was supposed to go third. Sorry about that, Dave.
That's okay. We can it's free form.
Now that I look at this playlist, my bad. Stepped all
Well, what
over.
were you gonna say, Mike, about the second part of it though?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that as much as the first part. It's this acoustic guitar. It's kind of has this more mournful kind of sound to it. And I thought it was a flute, but it says it's a recorder that I think maybe Peter Green played as well. And it kind of fades out, I guess, for a minute or so. But the part two, I think, is like all that. It's more of that song. So I always thought I don't remember hearing that when I'd hear because like you, Jose, I used to hear it all the time. If you heard the live version, it was always I think Lindsey Buckingham singing that. But I don't remember that other part. So I thought it was cool to bring that up.
And who doesn't like a song that has a cowbell in it? Come on.
Yeah.
I just watched that SNL thing about more that special on Peacock. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. So I moved on to "Climb to Safety" by Widespread Panic. I think it just kind of has. They're again, if you want to label it, they're Southern rock. Obviously, they're jam band. They're huge on the jam band scene. I've not seen them. My friend Alan was the one did it, who introduced me to them, and I've seen videos on them, and I really wish I'd seen them. But they're a really great band. They're really out there, and of course, this song, you never know what you're getting with song. I know what this song is about. It's about addiction, and I initially when I picked it, I didn't know that, but if you listen to the lyrics, it really alludes to it. This guy's trying to climb to safety, and then there's lyrics in it where they're trying to tell him. You can hear someone trying to tell him, "No, stop! Don't do this." No, but he's closed his ears. He's put his fingers in his ears, and so I just thought it was a great song. I like Widespread Panic. I like their sound. Again, it's if you want to call it Southern rock, it's they're from Atlanta, they're from Georgia. I know they are. So I just thought it kind of went well with the oh well sort of things going on.
Yeah, I thought it was a good follow up. And just to add to what you were just saying there about Georgia, they're from Athens, which I didn't know until I don't really know much about them either. But well, you know more than I do clearly. But when I did a little bit of my Wikipedia research was about 2-3 paragraphs. I saw they're from Athens, which is man, something's in the water there. You have REM, B-52s, others I'm not thinking of, but anyway, yeah. So this I thought that's interesting because I see that now about addiction and in that I was kind of thinking more general terms about a friend helping a friend that's struggling, which I think was also a great. It goes hand in hand with that, but that's interesting to know that. I just had a couple of notes. I like the organ on there. I thought it was really cool. And the guy's voice, correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you have a different take. He sounds a little bit like Greg Allman to me. I don't know what it is, but every once in a while, when he first put it on, I was like, wow, that guy really sounds like Greg Allman. So I like it.
I don't know where this. I mean, sometimes you throw these out, and like in Jose, and it's like I don't know. I've never heard Widespread Panic, and I think if I heard the name, I would have thought it was like some type of a rap group or Rage Against the Machine or some Panic at the Disco
Oh,
or
dear God.
I mean I don't know what this was. But then when you put it on, I'm like, this sounds like Southern rock. This sounds like, what are these things? And I'm like, why have I never heard of Widespread Panic? And I had never. And then I saw, again, we use our Wikipedia to full extent, but you already mentioned one thing I pulled out from them is they set the record for the most sold out performances at Red Rocks in my state of Colorado. So they're a big jam band in terms of coming to Colorado and playing over the years and selling out Red Rocks. So I guess I've missed out on that for whatever reason. But this was put out in 1986. And again, they've had a few iterations in their band. Different people passed away and came into this, but I thought it was interesting, kind of like what Jose always talks about the Dead and Fish and how they never play the same songs in the same set list. And that's one of the things they said that happens with this group is when they get ready to tour, they do a master playlist of like a bunch of songs, and then they don't even know until the day before, the night before, and then they look at the things that they played the last couple nights and go, no, we're not going to do that one, we're not going to do that. Let's do these ones instead. And they build their set list that way. So I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, they always do the encourage their followers to tape and trade tapes and mix tapes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm late to the game on Widespread Panic, but I guess I'm going to need to start delving into them more because this was a way cool song. I liked it. So good job, Jose, again throwing that one we've never heard that I've never heard.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be on tour this year. Just throwing that out there, but mainly in the South. But they are huge in the South. But yeah, they're on tour again. They're still touring. If Jimmy Herring's one of their guitarists who took over, and I highly recommend listening to him.
So then I stayed in the 80s and picked a song from 1984. But I picked this. I have to kind of explain why we did what we did. So this playlist that we did today or this time, we said you can't pick any songs or by any artist that you personally have already picked out of the 35 playlists and 500 and some odd songs. We can't pick something that we have already done. So I looked and said, all right, well, what's Mike done and what's Jose done? And it seems like they keep beating me to certain bands that I like to play or like to get one of them in on. And this was one of them. So King Crimson, they both have played songs by King Crimson. And I said, all right, maybe it's my turn. So I went back to one that I was familiar with from 1984, Three of a Perfect Pair, off the self. I think it's the same titled album, right? Right. So anyway, I don't know why I picked that one. I know Mike and Jose recently went to go see an iteration of the band members who were in King Crimson. This lineup here was Fripp, Ballou, Levin, and Bruford, which is their probably most classic lineup that they had. And I don't know, I just always liked this song a lot, so I threw it on, and I thought it went well with the first two.
Yeah. Initially, when we were making this, and you put it on there, I said, well, this was on an old list, but then I remembered I bought this as a CD, so I don't think we ever used this song unless we did. But I bought this CD, and maybe I thought that I did, or I put it on my own playlist before. But it's I'd have to say, top 5 favorite King Crimson songs, and so that's that. Maybe I thought I must have put this on some playlist at some point, but I didn't. And like you said, it was great to hear in concert. Although I was even more fascinated with all the other songs that this one kind of flew by, and it was it's not it's Levin and Blue, but it's the drummer from Tool and who else, and Steve Vai as the guitars. And what I liked about that concert was it was just maybe I mentioned that it was just stripped down. There's no fancy show going on. Sure, they had some lights and stuff, but it was them and it's their musicianship that stands out the most. And they don't need gimmicks or a show, flashing all these shows and stuff like that. So like I said, I'm glad you picked it because initially I thought I had used it, but I don't think I had it's ever been used, even though I own the album or the CD actually.
I wonder. I bought I had like some of their early stuff on record when we were doing those tapes back in the day. And I did buy this record, not this record, but a kind of like greatest hits. It was called the Compact King Crimson, but it was actually, I had it on an LP. And it's possible, it was
Yeah.
like, that would have been about 90. I don't know if we were still doing it then.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think
So
so.
89, but probably not. But yeah. So I love that show that we saw, and this was their second to last song before the encore. But tremendous musicianship, and this song, this is their 80, the last of their 380 with the 80s trilogy with this lineup, not with Steve Vai, but and the records are red, blue, and yellow. This one was yellow, but they can. One of the things I really like about it is, well, all this. Of course, Robert Fripp does some wild things with the guitar, but Adrian Belew is just off the hook. He makes animal sounds, and that's no different in this one. I don't know if he did that kind of weird thing toward the end of the solo. There was kind of this almost electronic sound, but anyway, whatever. I like that. I like what all they brought out in the song, and the lyrics are interesting. Basically, a couple of really challenging people, but together, when they put it together, they make a third that seems to work. I'm sure there's more than a couple of couples like that. And then, what was it gonna? Oh, just the rhythm. They've always had like interesting rhythms, and this one's no different. I couldn't even begin to tell you what it is, but it's not 4/4. It's something else. So, yeah, I appreciate you putting it on. This is I plan on over time putting on more King Crimson. This is definitely one I would have put on. So, it's a good choice. And boy, I really changed it from there. I was thinking, well, it has a guitar, but I went to a song that was acoustic guitar, but from a band who I don't know that they do. I guess it's acoustic. It sounds acoustic. Anyway, I don't know they do a lot of that kind of thing. Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the song's called "My Friends," and it is. I couldn't tell you I know every Red Hot Chili Peppers song, but if you were to tell somebody to, hey, put on a Red Hot Chili Pepper song or name it, it would be a lot different from this. There's a certain kind of sound they have on a lot of funk and you know um, heavier beats and things like that. And this is acoustic, and they kind of took me back to. I was still kind of thinking about that Widespread Panic song. This one is about he's reaching out to people he knows that have been through hard times. A girlfriend calling him from prison and things like that. And I don't know if there's a real actual story or not, but for me, this album, 1995 is when it came out, and I had graduated college. It took me a while to get there, but I graduated and ended up in Dallas back at my family home. Couldn't get a job with my degree, so I was managing a restaurant, and I was basically none of my friends were there. It was a very lonely kind of time for me. And so this is I heard this song on the radio, and it really resonated with that where I was. And so I got that record, One Hot Minute, and I loved that record. There's some other ones I listened to. We talked about King Crimson earlier. There's an album they had come out then that I put a song on. Was it Dinosaur? And then Nine Inch Nails had a record came out, and David Bowie and Amy Mann, and they all kind of the music of that time for me, and I really kind of, that's how I got away from, like I guess we all do from time to time, that really kind of troubled thing about me by getting into the music. So yeah, so that's why I picked that one.
Well, who doesn't like a song with the title "My Friends"? Because you know, you guys are my friends, three old friends here, and you know, Jose's has been the only one who has put on Red Hot Chili Peppers, so he's used them 4 times. So this is another one of those ones where, okay, good way to go, Mike. Take one from the Jose chapter. If it were me, I only there's only a couple of songs. Some of the more commercial songs, but my favorite Red Hot Chili Pepper song is the one "Take Me to the Place I Love." So I would have put on that one, but this one is a cool one. I wasn't real familiar with their stuff, but I like the acoustic vibe of it. A lot of times they have some of their songs that are acoustic, and then they kind of grow, and then they get into the harder stuff after that. But this is a cool tune, and so I'm glad you put it on. And like I said, you put on something that you hadn't put on before, so that was good.
Yeah, obviously, I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and this album actually was with Dave Navarro, which didn't last very long. He just did not get along with these other guys. Well, you know, they've had some, you know, how like their original guitarist was they just love that guy, and of course he died of an overdose, and so that's why it kind of bleeds into the song "My Friends," because if you interpret it as, you know, we're always going to be friends, even when you're lonely and depressed. And even when Frusciante joins afterwards, they had him afterwards, but he had his problems with alcohol. So people interpret this as, you know, these guys go through a lot of things and and they can be depressed and they can have these issues, but they're always going to be my friends. And that's how a lot of people interpret that song, or some people interpret that song. I do as well. Yeah, this is the album that most people don't like, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and there's a lot of great songs on there, which is ridiculous because Red Hot Chili Peppers after this album they were, and I'm like Dave, I love Californication as much as that gets ridiculed for all it's worth. That's my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers album, and I don't apologize for that at all, even though their early stuff is, you know, much more liked by the hardcore Red Hot Chili Pepper guys. So, and it's a fantastic song. It just really is, and it doesn't follow the. I like to put on the funky, the weird, the obviously the flea-driven bass songs that he does, and so yeah, it's a nice change up, and it is a great song. And Dave Navarro is a great guitarist for whatever they want to say about him, why he didn't get along with them. He's had his issues with Jane's Addiction, and sometimes I don't think it's his fault all the time, even though he seems to be the common denominator sometimes. So, but just a fantastic song, and you know, I'll never pass up a Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think they're just fantastic. So, in keeping with that kind of different feel, although Red Hot Chili Peppers, this song isn't anything different. I went with Pavement. Now, I know a lot of people, that's Stereo by Pavement. Now, Pavement is one of those groups that I like to say that was like, oh, only the cool kids know about Pavement. And because I'm going to brag a little, unfortunately, sound like a conceited a-hole, but when I went to the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, yeah, it was there, uh, and I had credentials. Well, they had a panel up there, and it was about the PBS Rock and Roll, their eight-part series. And people asked like, what do you consider rock and roll? And one of these musical guys up there is like, oh, Pavement, Pavements, and I'm like, who is Pavement? I've not heard of Pavement. And then Trey from Fish is like, oh, what is one of your favorite? Oh, Pavement, and you're just like, who is Pavement? So I kind of listened. I never kind of got into it. Then I had a friend named Kendrick, rest in peace. He passed away. He was a good friend of mine. But I saw Pavement in 2010 on one of their many, and I think they're touring this year again, but one of their reunion tours. And I kind of understood where they were coming from. Are they my favorite? Nah, post punk isn't my favorite. This 90s era isn't, you know, but you can see the influence they had on a lot of bands. I kind of like their quirkiness. Obviously, it's just some quirky post punk kind of feel. But yeah, it was always one of those groups that were like, oh, Pavement. Yeah, you should know them. And you're like, I don't know them. And so, but I got into them, and I have 4 or 5 CDs from them. And like I said, I got to see them. So I was, I really enjoyed them. So I thought I'd just kind of share it, just to kind of give a little exposure to everybody. It's not everyone's cup of tea, that's for sure. So
Yeah, you know, I thought I had heard them. There was another song I was thinking of, but when I tried to find it, I couldn't. So it was a different band. But it's they get up in your face, especially in the chorus on some of this song, and that's okay. That's good. I mean, I like a lot of the post punk and even the earlier stuff. You know, I like that stuff. But what really well, just to continue that a little bit, I definitely heard. I always talk about this, I hear influences. You know, these, like when I hear this music, there's another band coming up. I'm going to do this, but I felt like I could hear the Pixies in there. Someone said the Replacements. I don't know a lot about them, but Sonic Youth. You know, things like that, and I don't know, you know, how much one influenced the other. Beck, you know, you can hear that. It may have been they influenced him, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, but then I checked out some of their other stuff, and it's so different. You know, it's like there's this, but then there's more folk stuff. You know, more. It's not that the edge of their lyrics or whatever are taken off, but you know, it's all kinds of stuff. So they're definitely worth checking out more. And I only kind of scanned some of those songs. I'm like, oh, I need to hear this again. So, like I say many times, and probably will say again on here, I've got to check them out. So yeah, loved it.
Pavement, man, they're hot. It's like walking barefoot in San Antonio on the pavement. You know, you're like, you know, uh, you know, definitely a band again I wasn't familiar with. I liked the play on some of the lyrics. You know, the Hi Ho Silver Ride. You know, the Lone Ranger thing, and then where he starts talking about Geddy Lee of Rush. You know, and his high voice, high pitched sound. You know, and I thought that was kind of cool. Um, yeah, again, never really exposed to this group. Don't know anything more about them other than that. But what was cool was, at least I thought, these 3 songs. I know we're talking individual songs, and then we sometimes talk about the group of them. But the 4, 5, 6 here with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Pavement, and then the song I put on by Live were all like, so it was 95, 97, and then 94. And I didn't think about it at the time, but they kind of go well together just because of that mid 90s sound that was going, even though they're totally different, like groups and genres and stuff. But I thought they went really good together. Those 3 songs. I played a song called by a group called Live, and called Lightning Crashes, and I didn't have their albums. I didn't have their follow them or anything. I just happened to have a couple of these songs in my playlist over the years that I had heard. Maybe they were on the MTV generation, or maybe it was after that. I don't know, but I always had this song in my playlist, and just thought it would kind of go well here. Now, when you listen to the song by Live, it starts slow, it's acoustic, and it kind of builds and talks about a baby being born, and an old mother dying, and down the hall and different things. And when I heard it, I thought the same kind of thing. It was like, oh, somebody's giving birth, and then they're dying in birth, and the baby's, the angel opens her eyes, and there's all this kind of stuff. It's actually not any of that. It's actually 2 different events occurring at simultaneously at the same time, but not necessarily connected to each other. So like, you might be in a hospital and hearing a baby born, but then down the hall somebody else is dying. That was the intent of the lyrics. I looked it up, but I never knew that about the song. I just always thought it was a cool song, and thought they were connected. Thought somehow it was about a mother dying, giving birth to her child or something. But when I read about it, they said, no, that's not really what was happening. There were 2 separate events on that. But anyway, I always liked the song, and always looking for we wanted to put on again songs or groups we had never played, and this is one where I thought, oh, okay, here's a time to throw on one that that I don't normally put on.
That's why I love you, Dave, is because you can follow it up with the song that I thought Dave knows nothing about this. And I felt bad that I put on Pavement because, like, how is he going to follow this up? And yet, boom, there it was. Lightning. I've heard it live. Yeah, they were in that whole '90s era, late '90s, and yeah, peripherally you hear it. But I really love this song. I'll just say I thought it was one of the better songs on the playlist for sure because first of all, it catches you off guard, and so it really hits you in a different way. And I guess doing my my little Wikipedia research, I guess he did say he wrote it in one fell swoop. I guess it was like one of his someone had died in a car accident, and so he had this thing, and it's kind of like the circle of life as well. And it's supposed to be optimistic. It's not supposed to be a downer. It's supposed to be optimistic. Like, yes, people pass away, but there's always life that's being born. And I really loved it, and I really loved the message that it brought. So thought it was a great choice. And like I said, Dave always keeps surprising me even after 40 years, right?
Well, that's why we do what we do. That's why
Yeah.
we do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like this is a song I knew. It got a lot of airplay wherever I was at the time. What year did you say it was?
94.
Okay, yeah. I was still in Austin, and I remember it definitely. But it's one reason I really like that you put it on here is because I never really gave it a chance. I'm like, okay, I recognize that guitar thing, but it's not really what I'm into. It's like, whatever. But it was because I didn't give it a chance, and those lyrics. That's what really, that's the song to me. I mean, the musicianship is good, or great, fine, whatever. But it's just it's a really great concept of a song, and I'd just be repeating what you guys were saying. But that I really like that idea. It just life goes on. There's a sad moment for somebody, but at the same time, someone's having joy come into their life. So. Yeah, so I now I respect that song in a way I probably should have back then. And thank you, Dave. So in this one, I definitely it kind of has this acoustic guitar, and so I was thinking, okay, there's another song coming up that has a lot of acoustic guitar, Fleet Foxes, Sun It Rises. Okay, there's also harmonies and stuff, but this one, yes, Jose had put on two Fleet Foxes off their debut album, uh, called Fleet Foxes, and so it's like I've been listening to that record, especially a couple songs. This song actually popped up on Apple Music. It's just a suggested song, and I listened to it. I'm like, oh man, these guys are awesome. And so then I really started listening to them. And I appreciate you introducing them in a prior playlist. It's again, here we go with the inspired by. There's the harmonies at the beginning. It reminds me so much of some things I heard the Brian Wilson parts of the Beach Boys do. The middle part I can hear in a strange way Pink Floyd. If you think about like stuff before, like Adam Hart Mother, things before not animals, before metal, but after Sid Barrett left, more acoustic, whatever. It's really interesting. Now the lyrics, it's almost like the one you put on before from this record, White Winter Hymnal. It's basically this one kind of stanza, this group of words, these lyrics repeated 3 or 4 times. And I think I maybe said this back then. It's almost like rather than it tells a story in a way, but it kind of it sets a scene too. It's like you can picture that. And this one definitely, it's like he's just kind of describing a scene and maybe a feeling. And it's just very short lyrically. I have no idea what the red squirrel has to do with anything, but there's a red squirrel. And it's clearly, from what I've read about this record and what I've heard, there's a lot of influence of nature. You know, I think he went in a cabin and did a lot, put a lot of the stuff together. So I could just go on and on, but I do love me some Fleet Foxes, and I keep mentioning this too. Josh Tillman, Father John Misty was on the next record, and I want to hear some of their stuff with him because I like his stuff solo.
Well, like I said, Jose had put that on, so now we're all Fleet Fox fans, and Mike had an opportunity to pull another song, another gem from them, and yeah, it's just cool. I mean, I think it's in our wheelhouse. We all like it now. You kind of said a lot about it already. The imagery and the colors. I think in the White Winter Hymnal they had similar kind of thing with the color red, and now they have this red squirrel, and but it's yeah, it's a good song, and went well with kind of changing the course after lightning crashes, and so I think it set us into a different direction here on the playlist, which was good.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how Fleet Foxes has kind of gotten its own life simply because I heard a fish once cover them at a show, and so and it is a when you once you we talk about this endlessly, is that once you get exposed to something and then once you start delving into it, you're like, oh my god, they write some beautiful songs. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. I don't know no red squirrels. I don't know this. I don't, but it sounds great and it's so beautiful that you're like, man, these guys write some great songs. This is some uplifting, great music. Where has this been? And so again, that's what the beauty of it. And I'm so glad that that y'all enjoy it, and I enjoy it just as much, and I enjoy discovering it just as much as you guys. I mean, I didn't come in with Fleet Foxes going, yeah, I've been to 3 of their shows, and I know everything about them. Now I'm discovering them just like you guys, and so I think it's fantastic, and I think there's some beautiful songs. What they mean, doesn't guess that's up into interpretation. So hopefully in the future they'll be added to more. I highly, encourage it. So, and then I kind of, I don't know. It's funny because when you look at the playlist, there are kind of some uplifting songs, and I just go with John Prine. Please don't bury me. Now, John Prine's another one of those guys that I'll say is he's not. I'm not going to say maybe to me, he's not as well known as a Willie Nelson or Johnny, but again, you would hear from other people in the know, like, oh, John Prine, he's the man, and you're like, I don't know who this is. I've never heard his music. I don't listen to his music. Sure, I'm sure I've heard a song or two. People have played songs by it, but I never got into him. So I thought, this is a good opportunity to put something on. So I picked up Please Don't Bury Me, and you can understand why people like John Prine. And it's a funny little funny is probably not the best word, but the song where this guy meets his, I'm not gonna say untimely because newspaper people never say untimely death, his sudden death of dying, and then he doesn't want to be buried, but he wants parts of his body to go to different spots to share it with everybody else. And I thought it was just a clever way to write a song, and a clever, and like I said, you can understand why John Prine is revered by a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll back up that it's a funny song, especially if you hold it up next to Sam Stone. It's just a laugher. But no, it really is. I love the lyrics. I have some. So he's want his body divvied out to various things, and there's funny thing. There's you can kiss my ass goodbye. It's these different things can go, and this is what you can do with that. But the one is, and the deaf can take both my ears if they don't mind the size. It's like a little self-deprecation there, funny. I like it, and and again, I should have listened to more John Prine. I know some people who love him in a way. They would think of this along the lines of their Bob Dylan. Their musical folk hero. And it's from everything I've heard, he's earned a lot of the accolades. So.
Yeah, it's amazing that, by us doing these things that we learn about some of these singer-songwriters and artists. And I kind of put it in the same category for me as like the Warren Zevon thing. It's like I didn't know a whole lot about him, but Mike's been playing him, and I'm like, oh man, this guy was pretty great. And even with John Prine, I knew a couple of the songs, but I didn't really know. And then we've put on some other songs um, by him, the Sam Stone and that kind of thing. But I went and looked him up again, or looked up the song again, and he came out of the Chicago folk kind of scene in the late 60s, early 70s. And I didn't connect all the dots until just now. But so the way he was kind of discovered was that, like, another guy named Steve Goodman that we've put on some of our playlists was also from Chicago, wrote the baseball song about the Cubs, and some other things as well that we've put on. And Steve Goodman was playing gigs and stuff in Chicago area with John Prine, and he insisted that Chris Christopherson, who was playing a lot with them, he said, you got to listen to John Prine. So Steve Goodman told Chris Christopherson, you got to come hear this guy. You got to listen to John Prine. And he did. And then Chris Christopherson said, hey, why don't you open for me on whatever, such. And so actually the three of them had played several shows together back in the early 70s. But they had that connection with, again, Chris Christopherson just passed away. Steve Goodman died actually many years ago. He died early of leukemia when he was really young, in his 30s. And John Prine passed away in 2020 from COVID-19 or complications of it. But again, they were all connected in that Chicago folk scene or whatever in the early 70s. And I probably need to listen to more John Prine, but I also read that they said his 1971 debut album is considered one of the greatest albums, like by many of the people. It had Angel from Montgomery on it, it had Paradise, and it had Sam Stone. But apparently this album, again, he didn't get the notoriety that a lot of his peers got, but his peers know that he was great, and that he was such a great singer songwriter. But so good for putting another John Prine song on, and like I said, reminding us that we probably all need to delve into his collection a little bit. Okay, so from there then, I put on a song. Again, this is another one of these. I just had one song on a playlist, or in my music collection. I didn't have an album. I didn't have the CD. I don't know where I got the song from, but it was a song by a guy named Michael Hedges. And I think Michael Hedges might have done some of that new age, new kind of stuff, Windham Hill label kind of stuff at the time. And I came across a song called Spring Buds, and I've just always loved it. And I don't know where the album is. I just have this one song by Michael Hedges, and it's just a beautiful song. I've always wanted to put it on one of our playlists. And the background vocals are, I'm sure, are Graham Nash, and I think even David Crosby sings in the background on it, which again makes it what I love so much about it is the harmonies. The lyrics are great, the song is great, but then you add those and I want to say harmonies, but subtle harmonies, like not just like, oh, there's Graham Nash hitting in the high note on that in the Crosby, Stills, Nash song. No, it's blended so well in there that you don't even sometimes pick it out or know that somebody's singing that. And to me, that's the beauty of harmony in that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I love putting it on.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's the last day of winter. It's such an uplifting, it starts out as the last day, that this is spring. Spring's about to bud. This spring's about to come. And like you said, having Crosby and Nash, how can you go wrong with that? And you said, again, it's, initially I thought, could it have been a Crosby, Stills, and Nash song? I'm like, no, it really isn't. It really isn't. It's not their style, so to speak. Could they have done it? I'm sure. You could imagine, I guess, Steven Stills, but I don't think it would have worked as well as how it works well in here. Where, like you said, they're not all trying to put their voice out there like this is Crosby, Stills and Nash. No, this is a Hedges song, and they're backing them up and doing what they're not trying to take the spotlight or this is in a group effort. We're just backing them up. So, really thought it was a great song. Really optimistic. Like I said, these optimistic songs after that don't very vital, and we have a bunch of them in it. So just thought it fit really well into what the flow of the songs and just
And by the
enjoyed
way,
it immensely.
by the way, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I like how they say, and sweet lightning struck. So I used to, had two songs in a row that had the word lightning in it. I don't know, that wasn't by design or I planned to do that, but later on when I listened to the playlist, I went, oh, lightning crashes. And then he mentions how the sweet lightning in his song. Anyway, that was.
Yeah, I didn't listen to a lot of Windham Hill. I had one sampler, which I'd always put on when it was cold outside because it seemed like wintry music, and and so I knew I'd heard of him through that. A friend of mine had really talked about, you got to check this guy out. He's a really great guitar player, and so and it's true. I think the lyrics are beautiful. It's really a nice song. The thing that I only realized when I looked it up on Wikipedia is this album wasn't even. We have two albums like this. I don't think it was even completed um, when he died. He died in a car wreck, and and so people helped him finish it up. And I think it's kind of a great tribute, and it makes a song like this more poignant. When you realize that some of this, might have been the last things he did, but definitely deserves. Well, this record definitely. I want to hear more. And there's other people, besides Nash and Crosby that I'm sure you've heard of that helped out with making this happen. And one thing, okay, so this song mentions an angel talking about carrying things over from one to the other. Lightning crashes mentions an angel, and there was another one. Oh, and the John Prine song. The angels told him, "This is the last thing you said." And so I had cued into that. And so I'm like, okay, what can I put on? And the only one I could think, I'm like, oh, this is great. I should do it. Was a song by Sting off the Soul Cages, When the Angels Fall. And I'm like, oh, that'll be great. And I mentioned it, and these guys are sharp. They're like, nope, nope, you've already done it. And I'm like, wait, no, what? Oh, yeah. Okay, so
Veto power.
that's fine. You're right. I agree to the rules. But there's a Zappa song live that he invites Sting onto the stage and he sings a Police song that was on our Halloween playlist. So, so now all of a sudden that kind of throws me off and I can't think what I want to put on. So then I go with this. I'm like, I'll put a political song on. Politics are timely right now. And so we actually listened to it as a Roger Waters song, which unlike many of his other songs, was really dark and that was sarcasm, folks. But there was some language in there. There was a term in particular. I just like after I put it on there, I'm like, no, I don't want to do this either. I'm sure I don't want to speak for you guys, but yeah, anyway. So I'm like, okay, then what am I gonna do? So third choice was this David Byrne song called "Strange Ritual," and it doesn't really follow Spring Buds in any way, but it's a song I've loved for a long time. David Byrne, if you're familiar with any of his stuff, the Talking Heads or solo, particularly the Talking Heads, he kind of takes a sharp look at, our cultural norms, what people do every day. If you've seen the movie or heard the songs from True Stories, it's like he's kind of painfully playing back to you some of the things. It's set in Texas, and just some of the things we people do, of course. But he finds the beauty behind a lot of it too. He may be poking fun at it, but he's also, this is who we are, And this song, I think, kind of goes in that direction. It's, let's say, strange ritual. It's basically a farmer walks down into his field and he's kind of meditating, contemplating his crops, and his mind travels and he sees all these things like a kid caught up in the frenzy of, or that's not what it is, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and people in a village proudly wearing their digital watches, which I don't know, you guys were kids in the 80s. That was a thing. That was a thing in the US. I had one of those little Casio watches, and it was almost a fashion statement, whoever got the first. And then, of course, they were just mass produced. But anyway, the other thing I'll say about I've always liked this song a lot. One thing I really like about it, and this will be the last thing I'll say, it starts out almost as a whisper and kind of this kind of haunting sound, and the lyrics and the music grows until it's like, electric guitar somewhat distorted, and he's screaming, basically at the end of the song. And I always put this on a Halloween playlist, but didn't. So I have no reason that it should have followed Spring Buds, but that's where my mind went. So that's what you get.
Sometimes you got to just do what you got to do, and put on whatever you feel like. And yeah, it kind of did a little bit of a change from Spring Buzz, but I think it kind of set up the rest of the last part of the playlist too. We had certain rules, couldn't do certain things. Mike has used Talking Heads, but he hadn't used David Byrne specifically, so he went that route, which is good. Again, I don't have a lot of David Byrne knowledge and that kind of thing, and it starts out slow, kind of builds or whatever. But after I listened to it a few times, I'm starting to come around a little bit. It's a longer song, so you kind of have to get with that. But again, I think it was a cool song, and as I listened to it a couple more times, it's seems to fit now. At first, when I first listened to it, I went, "Oh no, I don't know about this." But now, we do what we do, so sometimes it can't not be there. I do say though, I preferred this one way more than the Roger Waters one. That took me down a deep, dark place, and then I went, okay, yeah, let's put this one on. This will be better. So yeah.
And this might be a stretch, but Mike kind of alluded to it with this whole movie thing. David Byrne always kind of equates me, and maybe because he just passed away, David Lynch. And David Byrne is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a stretch, is the kind of David Lynchian, has that kind of David Lynchian feel, this haunting, but he shows you something that you see as something, but it's also pointing out something. There's an underlying meaning to it as well. Maybe it's because David Lynch just passed away and I'm a huge David Lynch fan, but for some reason that song kind of resonated with me in that way, is that David Byrne kind of points these things out to you, and in his own unique style. It's in a more subtle, not, it's in your face, but it's also subtle, and you really have to kind of read between the lines. Much like if you've ever seen some David Lynch movies, Mulholland Falls and stuff like that, you kind of read between what's really going on here, Wild at Heart. So I really enjoyed it, and it really brought me to, yeah, this is kind of a he and David Lynch. Now, people might be criticize me for that, but I equated to that, and I just thought it was a great addition to the playlist, because it does kind of remind me of David Lynch, and I I equate the two together. So anyway, that might be completely crazy, but that's how I see it. So after that, there's not much you can really follow up to. So I went with Jason Isbell. I've heard his name, but Mike had put his song on, Dress Blues, which, by the way, is one of my favorite songs now. I love listening to that song. As hard as it is to listen to, it's a fantastic song, and I've been listening to a lot of his songs. So I thought, bless you. So I thought, I put on "The Devil Is My Running Mate," which is a song here, and I even here's how they describe it as, is a commentary on the human condition and the complexities of our action. Pretty much saying, you know, we're all kind of guilty of certain things that we do, and that you have to just deal with it, and more so people deal with it in whatever ways they want to deal with it. And, you know, sometimes bad actions, you know, you have to kind of justify it in whatever way you can justify it. Now, having said that, I've also heard this song is about, and believe me, I don't like to preach politics. I believe everyone can believe whatever they want to believe. That this was a commentary on uh, the Iraqi war with George W. Bush and George Bush. If you really look into the lyrics, you can see why people say that. So anyway, read it as what you will. I just thought it was a fantastic song, and I hope we play a lot more Jason Isbell songs on our playlist. And Mike, thank you so much for introducing me to listening to it.
You know, I appreciate that. But I didn't. I'd heard of the name for a long time, and I always kind of wrote it off. Oh, he's some country guy, new country or whatever I thought that was. You know, but then somebody was talking about he had been in. Oh, what is it? Not Southern. Is it Southern Culture on the Skids? Some Southern rock band, country rock band. That's not the right one, but I should know. But it's like he basically, if I understand correctly, he got booted from the band, or at least it became estranged because he was. I don't know if he's addicted, but he was definitely, you know, a serious alcoholic, and so that got my attention. And I had heard Dress Blues, and then another one that I'll put on one of these days I have in mind. And then this one I actually didn't know, um, but it was yeah, and what you were saying about George Bush, the book, whatever, those years. Um, I think, you know, it was written in 2007, or at least recorded, but I think it's relevant today. And I don't like to force my politics either, but I did kind of want to have something, you know, my own way of looking at it, whatever, that it is pertinent right now. But boy, this is a much better choice than the Roger Waters. I can't say that enough. But it's a great song, and yeah, I agree. It's not just about politics. I mean, it's like about the human condition and how we can be sometimes. So I really appreciate that one.
Yeah, I can't add a lot to that other than like what's already been said. You know, never knew about Jason Isbell. Now we do, and so he's a great artist, and you know, love the first song he put on, and then Jose coming in with this one is it's equally good. He probably has a lot of other great songs to look into, and yeah, I wasn't sure about the meaning of it and the lyrics of it either, but you know, I wasn't trying to listen to it too much with that intent. I was just listening to it as, hey, this is a cool song. I like it. It has a good meaning, you know, and that was about it. So I really didn't delve into too much of the politics of it. Just a way cool song. Um, then I transitioned to my next to last song, a song by Bruce Coburn called "Shipwrecked at the Stable Door." And again, this is another one of these. I don't know where I came up with it. I didn't have it, their albums or anything like that. I just picked up these songs along the way, and I had probably 3 or 4 of his songs in my playlist from various places. And this is one that kind of has a kind of a Cajun, you know, buckwheat zydeco kind of, you know, flair to it with it. And I don't know, it's upbeat. So kind of coming out of the last song, I wanted to have something that kind of contrasted a little bit and had a little bit of an upbeat kind of thing to it. And I don't know, don't really know much more about Bruce Coburn or his music other than I've always liked this song, and so I threw it on.
Yeah, I thought it went hand in hand actually with that, because and I can't shipwrecked at the stable door. Well, shipwreck, you're out at sea. The stable, you don't have stables out at the sea. So what's he trying to say here? You know, and you know, obviously it's an allusion to, I'm sure, to something that something's happening, but we're gonna right at the stable doors because obviously it's a more countryish song, and so I enjoyed it, you know, and I thought it would actually went hand in hand with "The Devil Is My Running Mate," only because you know, it's talking about varieties of behavior as well as how you deal with them and that kind of nature. So I thought it was a great choice.
Yeah, me too. And you're right. There's an upbeat um, sound to it for sure, and the lyrics are heavier than the sound, which kind of it reminded me in a way of the Pogues because a lot of their songs are that way, and it had that kind of thing to it. If you'll bear with me, I'd like to read one section of the lyrics that I like. It's like, big circumstances brought me here. Wish it would send me home. Never was clear where home is, but it's nothing you can own. It can't be bought with cigarettes or nylons or perfume. And all the highest bidder gets is a voucher for the tomb. Which I thought was, yeah, that's true. Can't argue with that. You know, you can't take it with you. I mean, all the stuff we strive for in life, the physical things, you know, give or take a little more or less for different people, it's nothing, you know, it's just going to go away. It's fleeting. And I kind of heard a little bit of references to some Christian things in the song too, kind of along those lines. But you know, I don't have those lyrics here, but in this kind of, I guess, touch up, about the meek and anyway, I thought it was really interesting, and I definitely want to. I only you have we put on any Bruce Coburn before?
Um,
I don't think so.
The only other one I know of is, and sure I should know others, is If I Had a Rocket Launcher, which is an interesting song you should check out sometime. Um, but so then I go to Any Road by George Harrison as my last song. It was up until almost right before we made the playlist going to be my starting song. I was like, you can go so many different ways with that. And it's basically the message. Um, you know, you're going through life. It doesn't matter which way you're going, who you are, what you're doing. You're going through that path. Whatever path you take, you're going to get to that end. And this was his last record, Brainwashed, and actually, like I mentioned, referred to this earlier. It was not complete at the time of his death. He had cancer, and it just, you know, took all that was, you know, his talent and stuff. It kind of just faded. And but after he passed, you know, these songs, his friend Jeff Lynne, so we have a mini Traveling Wilburys reunion here. Tom Petty coming up, George Harrison, and then Jeff Lynne. And he and Harrison's son Danny or Donnie, um, put it all together, made it complete. And I think it's such a great record. There's some sad stuff on here because he does know what's going on and how much time he has left. But this one I think is just I think he's trying to be optimistic with this. It's like, you know, it's just life, folks. We're gonna go through it. You can go any road, but you're gonna go through it. So that was gonna be my first song. It's my last song.
That was a great one, though. You know, I'm not familiar with the last album that George Harrison put out. I guess I should have been more aware of it, but I wasn't, and so I'm gonna have to go check it out and listen to more of it. This just classic George Harrison sound. You mentioned his friends also joining in to help him on this one, or if they finished it up, but. Um, I'm probably gonna gush, but these last three songs, Any Road, and then we're gonna get into the last two by the Tom Petty one and the Fish one. I just love these three songs in a row. I don't know what it is about the way they flow, but yeah, I really liked this George Harrison song. Uh, and again, I wasn't familiar with it. And same thing with the next one. When I mean, Jose is going to get into the Wildflower song by Tom Petty, but same kind of deal. Later on, or whenever he put that album out, I wasn't familiar with that one either. Even though it was a really popular song, I think at the time. But once I heard it, I went, oh yeah, I think I've heard this one. But yeah, the last three songs just flowed real well, and really like the George Harrison one.
Oh yeah, I agree with Dave. In fact, I was telling y'all before that, you know, sometimes when we listen to these playlists, and it sounds like a week you have a lot of time, but we all know that that's really not a lot of time, and it's an hour pretty much of your time. And let's face it, a lot of times we listen to it while we're in the car, or in my case when I'm walking, but you don't get to the last 4 or 5. And I see sometimes they get shortchanged. But I thought this one ended, like Dave said, with some bangers. And Any Road, obviously George Harrison talking about his life, and Mike's right. You know, it doesn't matter what road whatever you're going to do, you just have to take it and go with it. You know, like George Harrison did, so to speak. I mean, let's face it. Later in life, he was attacked, and then he got canned. But hey, he dealt with it, and in fact, like Mike said, it's optimistic, and so it's just such a great song from George Harrison. Everyone always, you know, he obviously never going to get the recognition, even though he does, as Paul McCartney or John Lennon, so to speak. But I would say in his later years, he was as impactful as any of the Beatles' later songs, and especially him because he just wrote some, and of course got to hook up with the Traveling Wilburys, which doesn't hurt his cause. And one of the reasons why I picked Wildflowers by Tom Petty, because I thought, oh, you know, that kind of goes hand in hand, but also the song does. And Wildflowers, again, like Dave said, it was a popular song. I remember hearing it. I always liked it. I picked the Tom Petty song not only because of George Harrison, because Mike had put some Tom Petty songs. And I'm like, why have I not put a Tom Petty song on? What's wrong? You didn't even say what's wrong with me, but you know, it just isn't in my wheelhouse, so to speak. Even though he does fantastic song, and the song itself is, I guess he wrote this. He was having some professional and personal issues, and so he was trying to work his way. But he was like George Harrison, optimistic. You know, I'm a wildflower. I should be here. I can hang with these people. I can do this by myself. I can do this. And so I thought it was a really uplifting song. You know, it's like when we pick songs, sometimes we don't truly understand the meanings until we do our research or until we listen to it more and more. And I thought, man, this was really one of those songs that I'm glad I chose. To sound kind of conceited. So thought it was just a fantastic song.
Yeah, I love this song. When I wore this record out, well, it was a CD, so I guess it didn't wear out on the CD player, but I played it and played it, played it. There's other songs on here that are really good too. This is the title song of the album, but yeah, I heard a little bit about that too. It's like he eventually he and his wife split, and I think the earliest parts of those troubles were kind of about the time he was doing this record, and but it's not about a song about, you know, that. It's a song, you know, you belong in the wildflowers. It's thinking well of others, and you know, you belong with me, I think, is in there too. But oh, there's nothing else I can say about it. It's a great song.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I like how they have the imagery too, where going from the any road, and he talks about you could be on a boat or a plane, and then the next song, Wildflowers, you belong in a boat out at sea, sail away, kill off the hours, you belong somewhere, you feel free, you know, run away, find you a lover, you know, just great lyrics. And it's sad that we don't have these great artists around. George Harrison and then even Tom Petty died way too young, both of them. But yeah, excellent
Yeah,
choice.
who would have thought Bob Dylan would outlive both of them?
Right? Right.
And that the Keith Richards will outlive all of them. Well, not Dylan, but yeah. Never mind.
So then, as we said, these we were putting songs on that we hadn't played before. Maybe Jose or Mike have played these other artists, and so not to count, but Jose has used the group Fish at least 10 times on other playlists that we've had. So you know, unless you sneak one in, you're not going to get it in. So this was my opportunity, in part to put on an artist I haven't played, but in part to put on cool songs that Jose likes or that Mike likes or whatever. And this was one where I was kind of saving this one for the end, and we ended up calling the playlist Evolve. It's off of Fish's latest album or CD or whatever we call them now. Their latest, and was put out, I guess, in 2024, and it's the title track of their album called Evolve. And when this first came out, I think I saw them perform this on one of the late night shows. I don't know. Fallon. It was on, yeah, on that. And I saw that they played this song, and so I thought, oh, that's really cool. Well, now I have to say that it's kind of my right now. It's my go-to song. It's my favorite song right now. And like I said, I play it a lot, but I also go back and play those last three songs a lot. I've played it probably 6, 7 times these last three songs. But ending it with this Fish song, I just love the lyric of it. I love the vibe of it. I love the song of it. It's just my favorite song right now.
Go ahead, Mike. because
Okay,
I'll be blown
sure,
off.
sure. Yeah.
Oh, and
Um,
and before you say it, my wife really likes this song too.
Oh my God.
Which
I'm
is
gonna turn
really
everything-
because I've put it on a few times and I've played it like 3 or 4 times for her, and she's like, "Oh, I really like that song." I go, "Okay, good, because you're going to hear it again."
Yeah, I think this is a great way to wrap this playlist up. And I initially was going to call it "Oh Well," when I thought it was going to have a different, I don't know, in my mind, it was going to go a different direction. And it goes the direction that we all make it go. And, the lyrics, well, first of all, I want to say, okay, I like fish. Okay. I love fish. So it should be clear by now. I love fish, and this song is awesome. It's again, I have to go back to the lyrics, and I'm assuming this song is from the point of view of a creator. Like first came the light, first came, but I like this. Well, I don't know. I'm laughing.
Then came the sound. Yeah.
Right, and then then came the people with problems and hope that don't mean a thing if they just knew the scope. And I thought that really kind of, when you think about the songs before it, there's all kinds of trouble. There's, we have all kinds of these things going on in life, but in the big picture, you know, you have no idea how vast and beautiful it all is. Quit worrying about your little problems. Anyway, that's all I'll say.
Okay, I'm not going to drone on about fish because I know I am obviously in the cult, so I love me some fish, and we're all waiting. They just announced a spring tour all on the West Coast. I'm not going. Anyway, I'm glad that y'all love fish. One day we'll all go see a show, and then you'll really understand. Sometimes some people don't see the light, but and this song, I just like the way that it ended because as a group, as three old friends, we do evolve. And sure, I just hit my 60s. We're all close to hitting our 60s, and we still love music enough where we're open minded enough to evolve and not be overly critical. Are all the songs going to be great? No. But we understand the evolution of our lives from making the mixtapes back in the day to today and how we've evolved as individuals for 40 years. Not to get too deep, but y'all understand that meaning. And so I think it's a perfect song. It doesn't have anything to do with our involvement into it, but in another aspect, it does, because who would have thought that you guys would be liking fish so much? I've had obviously my 30 years of listening to fish and going to over 60 shows. So I'm obviously in the thing. But it warms my heart that you guys are open-minded enough to listen to it, understand where it's coming from. Do I expect y'all to, go on tour? No. But I do respect that y'all respect the music and how good it is. So that's all I'll say about that.
Well,
Well, I like the lyric. He says 10,000 creatures, none the same, a million little things to solve, or not. I'll let them all evolve. Right? Just let them evolve.
yeah, that's good. And
Uh,
I have to credit you, honestly, Jose. On my own, I probably wouldn't have gotten into them. I remember when I first heard them way back in the day, a guy used to play them all the time at work, and I was just like, I just didn't get it. I wasn't there at the time. I was focusing on some other kind of music. And now with these fresh, almost 60-year-old eyes and ears, I totally get it. And you've kind of 10 songs. Is this 11 now? Does this make 11 or is this number 10?
It's not my choice, so it's only 10. And I haven't used
Oh,
the
yeah,
sing
yeah, yeah.
song in at least the last 4. So
No, true, but altogether,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
they're on there. But
For sure.
believe me, you are responsible for that, and yeah, I appreciate it. Um, so I guess am I allowed to say what the next playlist is?
Sure, if you want to.
All right.
Teaser alert, teaser.
There you go. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the movie yet, cover your ears. Yeah, so the next one we did one on Dylan, all Dylan songs. And so we're going to do a few of these. I think that's been mentioned. So this next one coming up will be Beatles. We all grew up listening to the Beatles, and been a big part of our lives. So try to pick out 15 songs from them is a Herculean task, but we're gonna do it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. You guys have anything else to add?
No, just like I said, I think this playlist really always keeps us on our toes, and I'm glad that we do these. You know, sure we find ourselves to doing topics, but I kind of always enjoy these as well, and I like the fact that we pick songs from people that we weren't allowed to pick because it really kind of tests you, and because it also shows that we're picking we're listening, you know, to each other's songs, and I think that's a tribute to all of us in saying, yeah, we enjoy this music and we enjoy what we're listening to. Again, are all of them going to be a hit? No. But I went back to the playlist, the cold playlist, the second one, the winter one. Man, that is one of the best playlists we've ever done. And so let's hope we continue to evolve and continue to do these. And as far as the Beatles, that's going to be a task unto itself.
The thing I would add is you can listen to us three old friends, you know, talking about the songs, but you got to go listen to the playlist. Go listen to the songs. See what you think about them. You know, if we had a little more technology, we'd be able to, you know, talk about them, and then you could, you know, put your thoughts in right away when we're talking about it, that kind of thing. Maybe someday we'll get there and do that type of a podcast. But for now, we just want to encourage you to go listen to the music because that's what it's all about.
Yep, couldn't agree more. So another week or so from now, a couple weeks, we'll have our next one out. So it's been a pleasure, gentlemen, and look forward to the next one.